Welcome to Elevate, the masterclass where we dissect the elements of exceptional achievement and lifestyle design with a focus on personal growth and real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Tyler Chesser.
Elevate Nation, welcome back. This is Tyler Chesser. I'm so thankful to have you here, and I'm blessed and grateful to be sitting with you myself. Another solo episode. Hope you're enjoying these, but really today it's still about taking it to another level. It's about, expanding our minds, influencing ourselves for a greater future. This is for leaders, entrepreneurs, and real estate investors who have a burning desire for the extraordinary. As you know, our mission is to identify and apply how the best of the best raise the bar personally and professionally to achieve greatness in real estate and beyond. It's about creating a greater future. It's about utilizing the vehicle of real estate towards creating a greater future. And that all starts with investing in ourselves. And so I'm going to sit down with you today, really solo myself, me, myself, and I, as I like to say. But I got, really a quote-filled discussion that I'd like to share with you today. I think it's really inspiring. It's also, I hope, will bring a lot of hope and inspiration for you as you continue along your path to creating financial abundance, to creating financial limitlessness, and creating really that future that you want. What do you really, really, really want? Because it's available to you if you declare that. And so I've got some amazing things really to share with you. And I'll start off with a quote from Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor from, over 2,000 years ago, from ancient Rome. He says, and it's still true today, by the way, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And so, really just this quote speaks to me so much because, especially in this world, right? In 2020, we had so many crazy things that happened in reality, right? Whether it's a virus, whether it's an economic upheaval, whether it's a political shakeup, and whether it's, there's just so much instability if you look out in the world, right? And, there's a lot of people, including myself, who at times, those events can shake us, right? They shake us to the core and it knocks us off our path, right? It slows us down. But it's really interesting if you think about this quote, it is so true. And this philosophy and this thought process, if you have the power over your mind, not outside events, if you realize this, you will find strength. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not what happens to you, it's how you react. It's how you see it. And, it comes back to another quote that Wayne Dyer once said. He said, change the way you look at things and the things that you look at change. So when you change the way you see the world, when your intentions are positive and powerful, when you search for only the good, then your life transforms into some amazing adventure it was designed and destined to be. So, what this really reminds me of, I mean, there's so many different stories that I could really go to, but the first thing I thought of, was as a real estate investor when I got started. I think I've said this, or I've shared this story a few times about, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And I was already in real estate as a real estate agent, but I hadn't invested yet. And I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm like, wait a minute, I got to put my money into real estate. I got to start owning this stuff rather than just selling it. And I didn't really know what I was doing at all. And I'm sure many of you listening can, relate. When you got started, you didn't really know what you were doing. And, I'll tell you, I've mentioned this and, the segment where I talk about coaching, I did have hopelessness and sometimes even sleepless nights. I did feel that early on as a real estate investor because I made so many mistakes and I felt like I was going to go broke. I felt like the deal was not going to be able to support itself. I was funding negative cash flow for, a fairly substantial period of time. And of course, when you're in that type of stress, time slows down, right? Every single day is like a total battle. And then at nighttime, you lay down and you're like, how am I going to pay this? How am I going to pay the mortgage and all these things when my tenants aren't paying their rent? And I'm like, they didn't tell me about that in the book. They didn't tell me that, the real world is so much different than how you read about real estate investing. So, the question that I think that I ultimately came on, and it was more so just the pressure of the situation. I started to ask questions, not only of myself, but of other people. And, I think when I was in that state of stress, when I'm saying all these circumstances are overwhelming me. So, I'm the victim, right? I'm the victim of all these horrible things. I think I kind of like got to a point where my back was so far against the wall that I just said, you know what? God's got to take over here. That's one thing. God's got to take over. I've got to let this go. I've got to get this off my shoulders. And I think my stress, was removed in that moment. So I went from helpless to resourceful, because then I went from, well, you know what? I'll figure this out. I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. And resourceful is the state that you want to be in, and I think that thinking of quotes like what Marcus Aurelius said here, when you have the power of your mind, not outside events, but if you realize this, you will find strength. I found strength in recognizing that, the circumstances of the property, the circumstances of the submarket, the circumstances of the operations of property management, of all these things, I don't have the power over all of those things. I have the power over the control that I have of management, of operations, of, taking care of, renovations, of communicating, and, really strengthening my team. Even if my team was so weak at that point, it was about, well, wait a minute, how do I make it stronger? Instead of just saying, well, woe is me, I wave the white flag, and saying, what can I do? And I think going from that state of helplessness to resourcefulness was a huge shift for me. And it's been something that's really stuck with me ever since. So I hope that's helpful for you. But, I think of some other quotes when I think about really the power of our mind and how do we view things? How do we view, external events and external circumstances, or even our life circumstances, right? We sometimes have bumps in the road that are challenges. And so it's not a matter of what those are. It's how do we react? How do we act? And, Earl Nightingale, one of the greatest thinkers in personal development history, says that we become what we think about all day long. And I think that's super powerful as well, because if we're focusing on the negatives, or we're focusing on our problems, well, then guess what? More of those problems come. And so the question is, well, what do we want to focus on? What do we want to focus on? Do we want to focus on all the problems, or are we going to focus on the resources that we have at our disposal? And each and every one of us, and each and every one of you listening to this episode, has resources at your disposal. And we live in one of the most abundant times in human history, and maybe the most abundant time in human history. And so it's just a matter of, how resourceful are you? How committed are you? Are you defiantly committed to doing whatever it takes? Because if you are, then you always find an answer. You always find an answer. And, it comes down to, a few of the other mentors that I've had along the way, one of which has shared with me, one of the big things about 2020 was the PPP loans, right? A lot of businesses were funded with the Paycheck Protection Program loans from the SBA. And I just say that because one of his favorite mantras to long and enduring real estate success has been that he's picky, he's patient, and he's prudent. And so that comes from, not only finding new opportunities, but also, there's some deals where you've got to be patient, right? There's some deals that, you put together your pro forma, your projections, and, there's some things that have happened that are unexpected, right? And so you've got to be patient. You've also got to be picky, right? When team members don't work out the way you expected them to, maybe you got to make some changes. And perhaps even before you get to that point, you've got to be really picky with who are you choosing to be on your team. And, that obviously can apply to deals and opportunities that you proceed with. You've got to be picky. You've got to be patient. Our team at CF Capital, we look at 100 deals plus before we close one. So obviously there's a ton of pickiness. There's a ton of patience and prudence. That comes down to doing your homework, right? That comes down to, trusting and verifying, right? Trusting but verifying, as Ronald Reagan said. It's about identifying, the facts and making an assessment and, executing on a business plan based on the reality of the situation. So, it comes down to, how do we control our mind, but also how do we control the facts and the controllables that are in front of us, and where is our focus going? And so, I think it's important that, some of the solutions that I would suggest for you is, when you are facing challenges and when the external circumstances in your life or in your business seem overwhelming and you feel hopeless, what I would suggest is that you share with other people, right? Start there, share with other people. Hey, here's how I'm feeling. But be careful, because if you're not careful, the negative spiral will take you down, right? You have, well, I'm the victim of this, and, this happened to me and that happened to me, and I can't believe all these horrible things, and woe is me. Next thing you know, that negative spiral takes you down this path. And you know what? Negative is really the default state. That's the easy state. But if we want to, strive for the extraordinary, if we have a burning desire to be extraordinary, we've got to fight against that. And so, obviously share with other people, but share with other people from the standpoint of, I want to be resourceful and I'm a problem solver, and challenges make me stronger. Challenges help me grow. And so I think it's extremely powerful, to start there, share with other people, but also journal. You can train yourself to seek the hidden blessing. If you write out, what's going on, it's amazing the problem solving that starts to work itself out. So I would recommend journaling, writing things down, even just making a quick recording on your phone, or just speaking it out loud to someone else and thinking through, well, what's the solution here? It's not about, woe is me, I'm the victim. It's, here's the problem. I'm going to face it, head on, and I'm going to solve this. And here's how. And starting to think from that frame of reference, I think is super powerful. Also you can ask other people to hold you accountable, keep you honest. Don't let, hey, if you don't mind, let me know when it sounds like I'm becoming the victim. Let me know when it sounds like I'm, focusing on the negatives and I'm getting into this downward spiral. Help me get back into the frame of reference, because it's all about course corrections. We talk about that a lot on this show. Tony Robbins also said that things in themselves do not have meaning. We assign meaning to everything. So, it's about, how are we assigning meaning? How are we assigning meaning to, the circumstances of our life, the circumstances of our business? Are they an opportunity? Is there a silver lining in this challenge? Is this challenge allowing us to grow, whether it's adding a new system in our business, whether it's, replacing a team member, whether it's, gaining new skills, whether it's gaining a new experience, overcoming challenges and adversity and putting that tool in our tool belt for future bigger problems, right? The people who succeed most are the ones who solve the most problems and the biggest problems and the most complicated problems. We all know that. I mean, you see that with the greatest people that this world has ever seen, the people who have created lasting legacies and become legends and icons, which is, what I believe many of you listening have a burning desire to do. And if maybe you don't, I would suggest that you consider it, because you have the opportunity to do that if you really step into it. And so I think it's extremely powerful and inspiring and exciting. And you know what? Where focus goes, energy flows. Of course, we say that so much. I say that so much because I know it's so powerful. And let's focus on solutions rather than the problems, right? When we have a problem, we say, thank you for this challenge, right? Let's go to that default state. Thank you for the challenge. Now, what can I do to overcome this? What can I do to solve this problem? Because there is always a solution. And that comes from a resourceful state. It comes from the mindset of being resourceful rather than helpless, rather than the victim. Life happens for you, not to you. Tony Robbins again. I mean, he's the OG, right? So I hope this is helpful for you today. I hope you take this with you and really apply it. And I would encourage you to share this with someone else if you find this valuable. And until then, go out and elevate your life, elevate others around you, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Elevate. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to elevate your results by taking immediate action on what you learned. For more, visit elevatepod.com.